there's certain things like if I'm cooking, like I like to make authentic Mexican tacos out of a pork shoulder, and that's a depending how big the shoulder is, it can be up to a 2-day cook. You know, I'll put them in the oven at like 190 degrees Fahrenheit, which I guess that'd be about what, like, I don't know, like 90 degrees Celsius, maybe. Yeah, about 90 Celsius, and let that cook for at that temperature for about 36 hours. And then I crank it up to like 180 degrees Celsius for a couple hours just to kind of crisp the outside a little bit. And then I'll take it and I pull it apart because at that part all the meat and the proteins have all separated, so it turns into like stringy meat, you know. And I'll pull it apart and then I'll put that in a frying pan, you know, and cook. And I'll pull all the fat off of it and put it right in the frying pan with it. So it's
that sounds good. Yeah, that sounds good.
Sizzling. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Sizzling in its own fat.
Yeah.
And then I
see. I'm probably you ate raw. I say raw octopus, living octopus.
Yeah.
Which is as raw as you can get.
Yeah.
So you go the full gamut from extremely raw right through to cooked to fuck.
Oh yeah.
As we would say in Scotland. I'm more at the cooked to fuck end of it. I'd probably like it to be. I would love to taste that kind of thing, really, really cooked. Because what was I watching recently? And it was a guy was making, I'm sure it was tacos he was making, but he was making them with corn, and he was the corn. It took days to make the thing that made the corn to make the taco, and then the meat that went in it took ages to do that as well.
I do like my corn tortillas. When I was living, before I moved here from Ontario, I was living just outside of a town called Elmer, which is inhabited by a bunch of Mexican Mennonites. And they would sell homemade corn tortillas that I had the best tacos of my whole life living there. I do miss that part of living in Ontario, was my access to Mexican corn tortillas made by the Mennonites.
Yeah.
Because I never even heard of a Mexican Mennonite till I started shopping there at the store called Menno Mex.
Right.
And they would make breakfast burritos and lunch burritos. I would go there and you buy a burrito that was like about this big around, about this long. It was about $7.
Wow.
And it was just incredible. I wonder what our most frequent listener, Brian, or at least commenter, would think about Dopamine TX. His name is Brian.
Is that Brian? Hello, Brian. Yes,
Brian.
I was thinking about him yesterday. Anyway, go on.
So I wonder what he would think. I'm pretty sure he's from Texas. So I wonder how he would think about my Mexican tacos or my smoked brisket or I'm doing a smoked brisket, smoked ribs, and chicken wings tonight.
I'm sure he will let you know.
I hope so, because I mean, if I want more details, because in Texas, like they take their barbecue super serious, right?
I understand.
And,
yes.
Like when someone cooks like I'm cooking today, they'll call it a Texas barbecue. And someone in Texas might look at it and be like, "That's not Texas barbecue.
Not right.
Where's your mop sauce? You need more mop sauce." I'm like, I don't use a mop to put my sauce on. I use a little brush. But when I go to Rib Fest, like I haven't seen a Rib Fest here in Nova Scotia, but Ontario, when they had Rib Fest, people from Texas would come to Ontario and cook ribs and compete.
Oh, right.
And and you'd have to, you'd go and you'd spend $20 on this big rack of ribs, or if you had friends, you'd all go get portions from every rib vendor and then bring them together and you all try each other's ribs. And then you vote for who's got the best ribs. And those Texans know what to do in their barbecue. And I would love to go to Texas sometimes. And
have you not been to Texas?
No, I haven't seen I shouldn't say I've seen more of the U.S. than I've seen of Canada, but there's a lot to see in the U.S. Like I've been to, Boston, I've been to Florida, I've been to Las Vegas. I've been to Buffalo, and I've been to Illinois, to Chicago, and I've been to where's the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? Cleveland. I've been to Cleveland. I've been to Baltimore. I've been to Washington D.C.
Wow.
And then when you drive to Florida, you're driving right through a whole bunch of states along the east. So you're going through Georgia and Tennessee and North Carolina, South Carolina, all that kind of stuff, right? But still, I haven't seen that much of the U.S. I got to see Wyoming. I got to see Montana. I've never seen the Grand Canyon. Like I flew over it one time with the airplane, so I was like, hey, there's the Grand Canyon, from 30,000 feet in the air.
I'd love to see the Grand Canyon. I'd love to see Death Valley as well, with the monumental stuff, the monumental stones there and things like that. Yeah,
exactly.
I'd love to see all that myself, but I don't know if I ever will now. I always wanted to. A friend of mine was talking about a holiday where we would drive across America You know, he would drive because he's a driver. I don't drive, so we'd get one of these big American cars that's like a sofa, you know, that sort of thing. One of these big, comfortable American cars, and we'd drive across America. And we were planning it for a while, but it was always way too expensive to do it, you know. So we never managed to do it. But yeah, I would have loved to have seen America in the old days, which isn't that long ago now. But you know, but before the shit started hitting the fan in that country.
Yeah. I still think I know the worldview is the shit's hitting the fan there, but as far as I could tell, I still think it's one of the best countries in the world, and I think...
yeah, you were saying that. You were saying that that you thought that.
Yeah, and I mean, and I might be out of touch, you know, but maybe Brian can give us his point of view. Tell us what you think. Do you think America is as beautiful as I think it is, or is it...
Yeah, come on, Brian. Step up in the comments section, mate. We need your input.
But the one thing well, speaking of America, I watched the debate between Trump and Biden the other day, and that was scary. You know, like those two guys are just, I can't believe those guys are world leaders. You know,
well,
it was.
I didn't watch it because, as I've said previously, I don't watch these things. But it popped up somewhere. I think it was it popped up somewhere. I just saw the picture of the two of them, and I thought, oh God Almighty, what is happening? So I don't have a view on it because I didn't see it, and I don't want to have a view on it because it's like, I don't know.
Well, see, this is the sad thing is I tuned into it for the comedic value, not for the not to be informed about what's to come next. You know, who's going to win what. You know, like, you know, if you're going to talk winners or losers, you know, we all know who won a debate between those two people is Trump, because he's the one that can talk freely. And
he's the one that actually has a few brain cells left. Yeah.
Yeah, can finish a sentence. You know, but yeah, it was. You know, I think it was something to behold. And when they started arguing about who's a better golfer, I was like, oh my God, how can this be?
Yeah.
Like, there was two children with diapers on arguing about who are going to have their finger over the button.
Yeah, I know but of course the truth is out now that neither of them are in charge. Neither of them will ever be in charge of anything important. So it doesn't fucking matter anyway.
Exactly.
It's just
right.
Just amusement. That's all it is. We've got the same going on here right now. We've got Rishi Sunak, our mini prime minister. He's a very small man. Not that I hold that against him, but he's a mini man. And we've got Keir Starmer, who's our Labour guy. And I don't know if you know the history of Labour, but Labour came about after the Second World War as a reaction to the two world wars. You know, we've got to do something fucking different here. So we invented the NHS and things like that, National Health Service and all of that kind of stuff. But Labour nowadays is just a different version of the Conservatives. You know, so we've got you can have blue Tories or red Tories. That's the way we think about it. But they had a debate recently because there's an election next week. It's on the 4th of July, funnily enough. And that was supposed to, if we'd kept our First Minister here in Scotland, that would have been a de facto referendum on independence. So it would have been Independence Day, perhaps. But because of political shenanigans that I'm not even going to go into, he's not the guy who had that idea is not there anymore. So we've got a different guy now, a guy called John Swinney, who I've met, who's actually a really nice guy. He goes to the same place on holiday that I try and go to every year, and I've met him several times on the ferry out there. And he's a lovely guy, and he's one of the. I like him because he lets himself get angry, visibly, you know. When particularly here, there's a big sort of animosity between anybody who's slightly left wing and the Tories who are all right wing. But some of the Tories are really sort of evil bastards. You know, they really are. Some of the things they say are just, what the fuck? Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
So some of the things that left people say are crazy, but they're not generally speaking evil. But some of the things that right-wing people say can be downright fucking evil at times. Mm-hmm. And so Swinney lets himself get angry with them. You know, you see he's losing it. He's getting red in the face, and he's letting himself get angry. And it's beautiful to see because he's quite eloquent, you know. He can keep it going.
Exactly.
Whereas some people just get red in the face and start frothing at the mouth. He's actually quite good. So I quite like him. I'm quite in favour of him being our First Minister. But how long he'll last, I don't know, because I think his party is the Scottish National Party, and I think they're about to get a drubbing in the UK election, which doesn't make any difference to us at all. but his political opponents will use it as fodder, probably to get rid of him, I would think. So he might not be there that long, unless there's a rally, a sort of unless the polls are wrong, which they can often be. I don't know, but we've got a guy called George Caravan standing here, who's standing for another independence party. So I'm voting for him. I'm voting for George. George sat on my sofa in this house, so George is all right. I like him.
That's cool.
He's a cool guy.
I typically go for I lean towards the independent or the libertarian votes myself usually, because it's a throwaway vote, but they stand for what I stand for, so I typically go that way. I've had some weird interactions. One time when I was in Cambridge, me and Drew were sitting around smoking weed, listening to Miles Davis, and it was an exceptionally hot day, so I had my front door open and just the screen door shut, and this lady who was running to be the MP, the Minister of Parliament, MP, in my area, she came to knock on the door to like introduce herself to try and get our vote, and she didn't. I don't know if maybe I didn't hear her knock, or maybe she didn't think she had to because the door was open. She just opened the door and let herself in.
Oh wow!
And we're sitting around smoking pot, and she's like, "Woo, what's going on in here?" And I'm like, "Who in the fuck are you? Like, you don't just walk in someone's house, And she's like, "Oh, I just, it sounded welcoming in here, And I was like, "Okay, well, it's not." It's really not welcoming in here. I mean, if I know you and you're a friend of mine, you're totally welcome in here, but I don't know who you are. And she's dressed in a suit and got like a clipboard and a bunch of pamphlets and stuff. And I'm thinking she's a Jehovah's Witness or something at first, And she's like, "Oh, I'm just here to like get your vote. I'm a local liberal MP." And I was like, "Okay, well, you probably just lost my vote if you had it." And she's like, "Really? I'm sorry." And I'm like, "Well, whatever. So tell me what you want to tell me." And she's like, "What are you listening to?" I'm like, "Miles Davis." She's like, "Oh." And I'm like, "Yeah, Sketches of Spain. Do you know it? It's an amazing album." And she's like, "Oh, my husband listens to this one all the time." And I was like, "No, he doesn't. Oh, you're such a liar. You guys are all liars."
Yeah.
So I just told her to leave.
Yeah. Now, did you vote for her?
No. I actually not to get too political, but that was the first time I voted Conservative for a local riding, because it was a provincial election coming up, and the Conservative leader wanted to privatize marijuana sales because the marijuana was being sold by the government exclusively, and they were charging an arm and a leg for it, which was only making the black market worse, and it was destroying all the businesses trying to sell marijuana, like the people growing it legally. Right. And I thought, if you really want to make marijuana legal, you should be able to buy it from, people who are licensed to sell it. It shouldn't be a single entity. And you couldn't even buy it in a store. You could only order it online and have it mailed to your house. So I'm going like, they're obviously just propping up the postal service. And I thought it was wrong. So this guy campaigned on lowering the price of alcohol, lowering making marijuana privatized. And he also wanted to get rid of, the price to register your vehicle, because every 2 years you had to spend $200 for a little sticker on your license plate of your car. So he made that free. It doesn't cost any money now. They just mail you the sticker, and so I thought he just wanted to lower taxes and do all this smart stuff. And I personally, it was the first time I voted for a politician that actually won.
Oh, right. Oh, well, that was good. So you made a difference.
It felt like it, yeah. And the funny thing is a few days later, the Conservative person came around to my house to talk to me. And she knocked at my door, or he actually, I think it was a him, knocked at my door, and was very polite. And I told him, I said, "You don't have to sell me anything. I'm going to vote for Doug Ford." And he was like, "Okay, well, tell me why." And I said, "The booze prices, the getting rid of the vehicle registration, privatizing marijuana. Plus, I said, I'm sick of the way the Liberals have been handling our province for the last 12 years. I think it's time for a change." And he's like, "Oh, great. So I can count on your support." And I said, "Yeah." And then he came by my house a few days later, put a sign on the front of my front yard. And I was like, "No, don't do that." Like, I didn't, and plus all my neighbors were Liberal voters. So I was the only guy on the street with the blue sign in his yard. Everybody else had red signs.
What is it with Conservatives? One barges into your house, the other one takes over your front lawn.
The Liberal barged into my house. The Conservative was more...
Oh, the Liberal barged in. Sorry, yes, that's... Well, what's wrong with politicians then? They just do this crap.
Exactly.
Entitled.
Yeah, so I took the sign down and threw it in the garbage bin. And 2 days later, there's a new sign up. I think I ended up throwing about 10 signs out before they stopped bringing me signs.
Christ. So he took your pledge of support as just that, yeah. George Kerrivan was pissed off with me because when he came in, he was obviously, him and his wife, his poor wife, she died not long after that. I didn't realise that she was ill at the time that she came in, but she'd been going around the doors as well. So she came, she knew he was coming to our house, so she came in later. But he was sitting there, he was obviously, it was a hot day, and he was red in the face and stuff. I said, come in, I'll get you a cup of tea or something. And he came in and I said, can I get you a cup of tea? He said, no, just a glass of water. I said, okay, fine. So, and like me being typical me, sort of not reading the room at all. Guy's been walking around the Musselburgh, just, dead on his feet. It's so elderly guy. And I asked him about, because he was in Parliament at that time down in London. So I was very interested to know from somebody who actually goes into that place. I don't know if you're aware of what the English Parliament's like in London. It's like a bear pit, It's antediluvian. And the big guy at that time that all the controversy was about was Jeremy Corbyn, the leader of the Labour Party, who was an extreme left wing. Not extreme left winger. He was a left winger, which nobody is these days. But he was the one that everybody wanted to know about, and he nearly won the damned election too. And so I said to George, I said, what's Jeremy Corbyn like? And he just looked at me and he went, and then I realised he's been hitting doorsteps all day long, and that's probably the only thing he's heard. What's it like being with Jeremy Corbyn? And he didn't say anything, but he just sort of sighed and looked at me, and I thought, right. I said, don't worry. I said, don't worry though. You've got our vote. So as recompense for my idiocy, I'm going to vote for him this time. He's not got a chance because he's with a different party now. He's not going to get in, but at least he'll get a few votes. I say I'm going to vote for him. I have voted for him because I voted postally. I voted through a postal vote.
Oh, there you go.
So that's done.